let the debate continue. We'll go to our next story. You know, for the JAMB, Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, a Nigerian Entrance Examination Board for tertiary level institutions, these are trying days, especially in the aftermath of the UTME glitch. A bogus claim that the irregularity was targeted at candidates from the Southeast region has prompted the spokesman of JAMB, Fabian Benjamin, to dismiss the claim and stress that it had nothing to do with ethnicity. Meanwhile, the rector of the Yaba College of Technology, Dr. Ibrahim Abdul, has thrown his weight behind the registrar of JAMB, Professor Ishaq Oloede, amid ongoing challenges of the body. While commending the transparency and leadership style of the JAMB boss, the rector has called for a stronger collaboration among education stakeholders to fortify the examination system. BKO.
Yeah, I think that Professor Oloede needs to be commended for the way he accepted responsibility.
Yeah.
And some people called his tears crocodile tears, but it's unfortunate that people will see that as crocodile tears. The man felt for the students. Even if one student is affected by this glitch, it is bad enough. People who say that, oh, it was targeted at the Southeast, it's unfortunate that they are thinking in this manner. The number of students affected in Lagos is more than the number of students affected in the entire Southeast.
The totality of it.
Yes. This thing, I have friends whose children were affected, for example. So people imagine that, oh, it's a Yoruba conspiracy against the Igbos. I think that the Igbos and the Yorubas, especially on social media, they need to stop the shameful baiting of one another that they are doing. You see today, anything that that happens, the Igbo man sees himself as being in contest with the Yoruba man. It's the same attitude that the Yoruba man has. He's already seeing the Igbo man as a threat. And these are people who have lived together for years.
Not as a part, yeah.
So it makes no sense. So once this happened, we started saying, oh, it's targeted against the... Whereas, okay, you go to northern Nigeria, go to a state like Kano, for example, where this glitch did not happen.
Yeah.
Go to Kaduna, where this glitch did not happen. Go to Plateau State, where this glitch did not happen. A significant portion of the population is Igbo. And a significant...
Interestingly.
Yes. Zik won in Plateau State in 1979. In fact, the governorship election was won by Zik's party, NPP.
NPP at the time.
Solomon La. So the Igbos have a tremendous population in Plateau State, to the point that a party that they support can win election in the state. And we've seen it. We see even in the last election, we saw how Labour Party performed in the presidential election in Plateau State. They won easily. So what I'm saying is, in those places where we didn't even have the glitch, those northern states especially, significant candidates of Igbo extraction took part in the election. I mean, in the exam, and they benefited. Now, if this thing affected Lagos State, and the people affected in Lagos State are higher in number than those affected in the 5 Southeast states, why should anybody think that, oh, this is simply about Lagos? I mean, about the Southeast. People can complain that this shouldn't have happened, but we shouldn't go to the point of now impugning ethnicity to something that, even in the US, the SAT examination held on March 9 also suffered similar glitch. People could not upload the answers. And this was what happened, what happened in Nigeria. That was what happened. Students, after solving an equation, for example, would not be able to upload the answer. That problem was the problem of JAMB's contractors. But Oloyede decided to take responsibility.
That's it.
We don't even know the ethnicity of the contractor. We don't know. At the end of the day, when this thing happened, it happened with the ACT exam of US in the month of April. Nobody resigned. They just decided they organize a fresh exam for them. That's the standard practice. They organize a fresh exam. That was what they did in March when it happened with their SAT exam. That was what they did when it happened with their ACT exam. In 2 months, public examinations in America, in 2 months, back to back, they had, it wasn't even up to 2 months, they had glitches. Nobody said, it's his ethnicity, oh, they don't like my tribe. Nobody said, the head of the exam body must go. They merely, they kept their jobs. What of NASA? NASA, NASA is the peak of technology now.
Oh, yeah.
But we had what happened with the Challenger. NASA, the whole world was shocked.
Oh, yeah.
Technology does not offer you perfection. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And if it happens, we just have to accept it and then see what we can do to improve things. Not to be dividing ourselves. We should be ashamed of ourselves, the way we divide ourselves over this thing. So when it happened in Illinois, Chicago, in the US, nobody said, oh, it's targeted at blacks. Everybody accepted it. Even there's no state in Nigeria that has only people of one ethnicity.
Oh, yeah.
Go to Umwa here. You see significant Hausa Fulani population.
Oh, yeah.
And if they have children, those children will be part of that exam. That's why I gave the example of Kano and all those people. A good number of the people who sat for JAMB in those places were actually from the Southeast. JAMB has to perfect its quality assurance module.
Yeah.
Ensure that this sort of thing does not happen again. But we cannot build a good nation when even people that we respect, educated people, will not wait for investigation to be done. They will now say, oh, it's ethnicity. They hate us now. Have you watched Osita Chidoka? Osita Chidoka is an education stakeholder. Look at the way he explained what happened.
Yeah. Okay,
Look at the way, yes, he did not go into this emotional outburst and all that. He explained that this can happen, and he gave the NASA example. And he too said, you, JAMB, do your best. Next time, this kind of contractors who embarrass you in this way, you have to fire them. Send them packing. It's as simple as that.
Okay, Wale, you know, we must not take anything away from Professor Oyede. Because before his coming, we used to have a Professor Dibo Ojenide, and the news from JAMB was Dibu Ojenide. Yeah. So, but he came and turned the tide. And so people, because of this, people are asking for his head.
Well, I think, first of all, we need to look at these issues in context. The reality is that Nigerians are divided along religious and ethnic lines. It's not their fault. It is because of the kind of system we have run over the years.
It has become a fault line we are living
in our system. So it's a challenge for the government that we need to build trust among ourselves. When you are talking about Igbo and Yoruba people, they are one of the most integrated in this country. Forget about these people on social media. On Fridays, you know, as journalists, we visit, go to drinking joints, come and see Igbo and Yoruba people. You won't see the difference. In churches,
yapping themselves.
In churches, you won't notice the difference. In the workplaces, you see an Igbo man, you see a Yoruba man. You know one interesting thing, which is a story I'm actually trying to do. When you go to Alaba, you see a lot of people who own shops. Orile, they employ Yoruba as their cashier.
Okay.
A lot of them. Go to Mushin, you see Yoruba shop, you see Igbo shop. You understand the point? So we have tried all along on our own to build mutual relationship. But a lot of things that are happening that is trying to destroy this, you know, historic relationship between Igbo and Yoruba people. So I know a lot of Igbo people that even name, Azikiwe has a Yoruba name. He even named one of his first sons, Ayodele, you know, a Yoruba name. So it has always been there for a very long time. And it's better for us to keep this, you know, relationship in our own interest. So I think those that are complaining and all that, really ethnic meaning, is based on the situation in the country. But I ask myself, is it real? I don't think it was motivated by ethnic interest. For instance, in the board management team, we have Mr. Chidebe Adindu Achune. We have Mrs. Gloria Anyegbu. We have Mrs. Linda Ajanwachuku. Then we have Fabian Benjamin. And one person, I think from Cross River, Mrs. Villa Pius. So JAMB is not an association where the professor will take decision alone. There is a management team where all of them will come together and work out the details.
There is a pan-Nigerian team.
And we have the CBT, that is all the 36 states. 90% of those who work at the CBT are indigenous of those states. So I think there's no evidence. Even though I agree that Nigeria is divided, there are people that are marginalized, there's a problem with self-determination. But I think in this issue, I don't think there's any, it's not possible for the registrar alone to act alone and then subject the whole thing to
because it doesn't help anybody.
Even Fabian Benjamin has explained that it's a service provider that dropped the ball. And that service provider is not JAMB staff. So even when we are blaming, that's why people like Osita Chidoka, because they sat down. When JAMB quickly called stakeholders, they sat down and they look at the exam state by state. Because they too were already worried that states that used to be in the top 10 were the ones badly affected. They knew something was wrong. They were already thinking of what to do. By the time they called those stakeholders from Educare, the Osita Chidokas of this world, VCs of universities, they identified the problem. The important thing is, setbacks will happen. But when setbacks happen, how do you respond? You will suffer setback in life. It's a fact of life. Things will not always go smooth because we are not perfect. God never created us as perfect people. So the moment they identified that problem, those 6 focus states were then set aside to say, okay, we didn't have issues with other states. Complaints, no, not from those states. Mass failure was not the reason for this. Mass failure, as always, because some people are saying, oh, mass failure. No, mass failure, the mass failure we have, we've always had a situation in which 76% of people who sit for JAMB don't score up to 200. That is a problem that has always been there. In this case, 78%. So it's not even far away from the record. We have a problem with people failing. We have to address that from the root. Whether it's the quality of instruction, it's the quality of teachers that we have and all that. Why are they always failing English? Even this one, some of the most excellent students, they didn't do particularly well in English. I know a boy who scored 98, 98, 98 in physics, chemistry, biology, but he got to English, he scored 70. You know, my own son scored 68 in English, which I can't be proud of. I expected at least to be higher than that. So, but English generally gave people problems in this exam. So we have to try to interrogate those issues. How do we get candidates to improve? We can't keep having 1.9 million seats for an exam. And only about 15% will score up to 200. My own concern is much more than that, all this, because it shows that we are going down. We are going down.
Tells you it's a two-way street. Parents must be involved. I remember in my time, I couldn't take red ink home, BKO. Every red ink in my exercise book attracted a cane. And so I ensured that
there's no doubt that there's a need for reforms for JAMB. For instance, when you ask people to pick one university, just limiting them to 3 universities, whereas in other countries, you can pick as many as 50 universities. And there are 2 bodies, South and East City, in the US, for instance. So we need to look at all this, that if you score 300 this year, and the next year you score 180, does it mean that 300, you cannot use it to go into university?
I think that should still be valid maybe for 3 years.
Yes, it is wrong. And then they have 180 questions for 4 subjects. You know, that means you have an average of less than 1 minute for one question. So a student under stress. You know, my child was affected by this, and she, you know, took the thing again on Saturday. I was there, and I noticed there are some challenges. You know, they were supposed to start by 6:30. Why do you need to freeze, you know, the time for 6:30 a.m.? And I saw a lot.
The whole idea is for people to get there on time.
Yeah, on time.
I don't think anybody will want people to start exam at 6:30.
Yeah. They got there, but it's too early, especially for children who need to come on their own.
Yeah.
You know, given the circumstances. So I think there's a lot of reforms that needs to be carried out, you know, when you are talking about JAMB.
Okay, then. What we do here, we provoke debate. The debate, we have provoked this one. Let the debate continue in your part of town. But we have attempted to give context